Unfortunately, this type of shit happens every single game to her, and the league and the refs do absolutely nothing about it.
Sophie Cunningham went on her podcast this week and said things that no Indiana Fever player has been willing to say publicly all season. She talked about the Thomas attack. She talked about the league failing to protect Clark. She talked about the 30th anniversary poster. And she said the quiet part out loud about what is happening to Clark every single game. This was not a carefully worded statement through a team PR person. This was Sophie Cunningham on her own platform saying exactly what she thinks. And what she thinks is that Caitlin Clark is being targeted, that the league does nothing about it, and that the organization that is supposed to protect their franchise player keeps its own teammates in the dark while it happens. If you have been watching this season and you knew this moment was coming, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications right now, because what Sophie said on that podcast goes further than anything we have heard from inside that locker room all year. Let's start with the most important thing she said, because the first words out of her mouth about the Thomas incident revealed something about this organization that the front office would never want public.
So during real time last night, I did not see that happen. I don't, none of our team saw it happen, because I promise you if we would have seen that happen, we would have had her back. Unfortunately, this type of shit happens every single game to her, and the league and the refs do absolutely nothing about it.
The most important word in that entire clip is unfortunately. Sophie is not saying the team chose to look away. She is saying none of them saw it because nobody was watching. Alyssa Thomas put a fist into Caitlin Clark's neck while Clark was on the ground, in front of a baseline official, and not a single Indiana Fever player on the floor saw it happen in real time. That is not a coincidence. That is what happens when your star player absorbs contact so routinely, in so many different ways, across so many possessions, that her own teammates cannot track every single play anymore. And then, Sophie lands the phrase that cuts through everything else. This type of behavior happens every single game to her. Not sometimes. Not in chippy matchups. Every single game. From a player who has been Clark's teammate for 2 seasons and watches every possession from the bench or the floor. Now here is where it gets even more pointed, because Sophie did not stop at acknowledging the pattern. She named it for exactly what it is.
Yeah, but then you see the videos of literally kneeing and cheap shotting C in the throat. If she did that to any of our teammates, we'd be pissed. But they're definitely targeting her, and the league and the refs do nothing to protect her.
They are definitely targeting her. Not might be, not seems like, definitely. That is Clark's teammate, on record, using the word definitely to describe a coordinated pattern of physical play against one specific player. And then she frames it in a way that makes the double standard completely visible. If Clark did that to any of our teammates, we'd be pissed. That is the clearest possible way to describe what is happening. The plays being used against Clark would generate outrage, investigations, and suspensions if used against anyone else. Thomas gets 1 game. Clark gets more than a week out with a back injury. And after the suspension was handed down, Thomas's own team tweeted a video of someone on the ground with the caption, "Do you want a piece of this?" Sophie called that out on the podcast too, noting she knows people inside the Mercury organization who say their own team is the unfriendliest group in the league. Even insiders do not like what this team is doing. But here is the other part of Sophie's podcast that has been flying under the radar. And it might actually be more damning than the Thomas comments, because Sophie talked about the WNBA's 30th anniversary commemorative poster. And what she said about it reveals exactly how this league thinks about Caitlin Clark even when nothing physical is happening on the court.
The poster that they dropped last night, the 30-year commemorative thing, which that you're on it, that's cool.
Why would you ever put me on it? That should be Caitlin, that should be Kelsey Mitchell, that should be Aaliyah Boston. Why are we putting random players on there? I'm one of them.
Do you know?
Sophie Cunningham just called herself a random player. And she is right that the poster should have Clark on it instead. The WNBA released a 30th anniversary commemorative poster. Clark is not on it. The league's response when people pointed this out was that it came down to licensing, that Clark's licensing deal prevented Wincraft from using her likeness. One Google search destroys that explanation entirely. Wincraft has produced Clark merchandise before. Clark decals exist with the Wincraft logo right next to the WNBA logo. The licensing excuse falls apart the moment you look for it. So what is left? A league that spent all offseason promoting Clark's return, that built its entire television deal around her presence, that benefits financially every single time she steps on the floor, chose not to put her on a 30th anniversary commemorative poster. And her own teammate is the one calling it out because nobody else inside this organization will. Now let's bring in one more voice, because the Thomas incident did not just produce reaction from Clark's teammates. It produced reaction from WNBA legends who were watching the game live.
I thought that the last official should have been able to catch that. I was actually watching this game and I was like, oh, wow, that was a bit much. So in that moment, I thought that the official missed the call. I'm not surprised that the league went back and fined Alyssa Thomas.
A bit much. That is Lisa Leslie, two-time Olympic gold medalist, WNBA champion, one of the most respected voices in the history of this league, watching the Thomas play live and saying out loud that it was a bit much, and then saying she is not surprised the league went back and reviewed it. Lisa Leslie is not a Clark fan account. She is not a drama channel. She is the measuring stick against which every player in this league is evaluated. And she watched the play in real time and thought the official missed the call. The referee was standing on the baseline with a direct line of sight and did not call it. Lisa Leslie, watching from outside the building, saw it. The official standing inside the building did not. And Clark is now out more than a week with a back injury because of what that official chose not to call. Here is what makes all of this land so hard together. Sophie Cunningham went on her podcast and said her team did not see the attack because they could not track every hit Clark absorbs every single game anymore. Lisa Leslie watched the game from outside the building and saw it immediately. The baseline official stood 3 feet away from the play and called nothing. And when the league reviewed it and handed down a 1-game suspension, Thomas's own team tweeted a video of someone on the ground as a response. Meanwhile, Clark is expected to miss more than a week. The boycott emptied the arena on Saturday. Fans are not watching until she returns. And the 30th anniversary poster of the WNBA, the league Clark has single-handedly transformed into a mainstream conversation, does not have her face on it. Sophie said this type of behavior happens every single game. She said the league and the refs do nothing about it. She said Clark is definitely being targeted. And she said all of this on her own podcast because nobody inside the Indiana Fever organization was going to say it publicly. Not the front office. Not the GM, not the coach who issued no public statement specifically calling out what Thomas did. Sophie Cunningham stepped into the space that every other voice around Clark has been unwilling to enter. And the league that put her on a commemorative poster while leaving Clark off, it just heard every single word. What do you think? Did Sophie Cunningham say what needed to be said? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications because this story is not slowing down. We will see you in the next one.